Hello friends, this video is going to talk about the possibility of a lighter colored or potentially albino North American Sasquatch and looking at some compelling videos. A lot of people when they hear white Bigfoot think, oh, you mean a Yeti. Despite the depictions in Hollywood of the Yeti being white, the people of the Himalayas describe it as a brownish color, and the same thing with the Yeren in China. There is no evidence of entire populations of white Sasquatch-like creatures anywhere in the world. What we are looking at are specific individual Sasquatch in North America that appear to be white or at least lighter colored. The most well-known example of a white Bigfoot is in the Pennsylvania white Bigfoot video. I'm now going to play the video in its entirety. I'm now going to show the video stabilized and looped by MK Davis. Like the vast majority of Bigfoot footage, the video's origin is unknown. Neither when the video was taken or who the author is known. The only piece of information we have is that it was supposedly taken in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, and it popped up around the internet around 2008. Channels like Thinker and Thunker have used face proportions and looking at the subject's eyes, theorizing that it is opening and closing them. One thing that is certainly apparent is that the subject's face has movement to it. Its face appears to be scrunching up, so if this is a hoax, we're looking at thousands of dollars and a high-tech mask that has never surfaced to this day. I want to talk about an albino primate that is known to science, Snowflake. He was a western lowland gorilla at the Barcelona Zoo. After poachers had wiped out his mother and entire clan, he was found clinging to his dead mother's corpse. From there, the poachers sold him into the zoo trade for his obvious appeal. He was known worldwide. Through genetic testing, scientists concluded that his albinism was caused by inbreeding. Immediately, I saw similarities between Snowflake and the Pennsylvania white Bigfoot. Even though they are obviously not the same species and are very different morphologically, they still look so similar to me. Just the position of the ear and the general head shape, I don't see how you fake that. I imagine if there are videos of Snowflake in the pitch black with a flashlight only illuminating him, he would look even more similar to the subject in the video. However, the Pennsylvania white Bigfoot is not the only video evidence of a white Sasquatch. In fact, I would say these clips that I'm about to show next are even better. These next clips I'm about to show do not belong to me. They are footage of MK Davis. I think Mr. Davis has produced some of the best Bigfoot footage ever, right behind the Patterson-Gimlin film. Mr. Davis has captured multiple clips of the creature in this video, so I highly suggest you go check out his channel. Links to all of his original clips will be in the description below. The exact location of where this clip is filmed is unknown, but it is somewhere in the south. I am now going to play the clip known as Whitey's Run in its entirety. I am now going to show the pan and zoom of the clip done by MK Davis himself. He edited out the time the creature is behind the cow in the video to better show the creature's speed, so that is why the cow's head is going to whip around in the video. In the pan and zoom video, it looks like the creature is moving effortlessly, and not even quickly. But in the original video, you can see how wide the lens is and how much ground this thing covered. It looks effortless. It is hard to determine how fast it was actually moving, but it didn't look like it was really running. It was more of a power walk. Pay attention to the creature's stride length. This would be very hard for a human to do. I would say that its raw speed could be replicated by a fast human in a full sprint, but the subject in this film, without a shadow of a doubt, is not running, or at least not like a human would. The creature using both bipedal and quadrupedal locomotion in this clip just brings more validity to it. I think these creatures spend a lot more time on four limbs than we'd like to imagine. And it makes sense too in this clip. When it first comes out into the clearing, it doesn't know what it's going to see around the corner. There could be a human there, so that's why it sticks to all fours until it knows it's safe and then wants to cover it as fast and efficiently as he can on 2 feet. The start of this clip leaves something to be desired and not showing the creature emerging from the brush. But from the looks of it, on this quality of camera, you wouldn't be able to see it until it was all the way out when the clip starts. Another thing that brings some validity to this clip is the reaction of the cow and her calves. I've spent a decent amount of time around cows that are free roaming a piece of property. I don't think even cows would have this fearful of a reaction to a man in a suit, especially if he already set up the camera and got in the brush. And if they did, surely the mother would handle that. But she doesn't. She doesn't react at all to something scaring her calves. In fact, she hardly moves until the creature is all the way gone past the creek. Again, MK Davis has multiple videos breaking this clip down and also other clips of the same individual. I just think this clip offered the most to analyze. According to Purdue University, the chances of an animal being albino are anywhere from 1 to 20,000 to 1 in 1 million. Besides just having the lack of melanin, it causes severe issues with eyesight. It is most common in birds, reptiles, and amphibians, but more rare among mammals, especially primates. There have only been a handful of specimens ever observed. This happens for several reasons. 1, primates are not genetically predisposed to albinism, and because most primates, especially the great apes, don't take too kindly to individuals that expose the rest of the group to detection. And I think this is a critical feature in the Bigfoot phenomenon. Even the known great apes are extremely elusive by nature and will absolutely kick out any individual that compromises their elusiveness. In July 2021, researchers at Uganda's Budongo Central Forest Reserve spotted an infant eastern chimpanzee that appeared to be albino. The infant would only last a few days, as several older chimps in the group bit its head and ripped off all its limbs. The exact reasoning of why the group saw fit to kill the infant isn't clear, but it is a trend among differing species to remove albino individuals. There have only been a handful of albino great apes ever observed, and these animals are in zoos across the world. What are the chances of multiple albino individuals in a population as cryptic and as small as the North American Sasquatch? And even if one did occur, would the group really let the infant grow up into adulthood and potentially expose the entire group? Alright, now it's time to talk about the logistical possibility of a white Sasquatch. Obviously, it does not take a genius to know that being covered in white fur, little protection from the sun, and eyesight issues are all factors that will work against a creature's survival. But the potential existence of Sasquatch, and yes, I said potential, does not hinge on finding resources or even avoiding predators. It hinges on absolute concealment from humans. I don't like talking about Native American history of Sasquatch, since it was an oral culture and so little persists through time, but there are several groups that described a war waged against these creatures, and a war that humans were ultimately victorious. We are researching creatures that practice absolute avoidance until a mistake happens, and even then, or at least in my opinion. I must admit, when I first started doing research for this video, I was digging around the deep corners of the internet, looking for any videos or descriptions of a white Bigfoot. I was a bit skeptical at first.
I do think there is a high possibility of a Sasquatch mother or other family group member dispatching of an albino infant for this reason. This reason that they understand avoiding detection is their only path to survival. Perhaps the key to understanding how an already rare genetic mutation could potentially occur multiple times in such a small population lies in the mutation itself. In humans, albinism occurs most often in sub-Saharan Africa, specifically Tanzania, which 1 in every 1,500 people are albino. For comparison, the world average is somewhere in the 1 in 20 to 50,000 range. There is a lot of varying statistics on that. According to the National Library of Medicine, the albinism rate in Tanzania is most likely because of consanguinity, which is a more pleasant word for incest pretty much, or at least sharing some type of common ancestor, however distant it may or may not be. So if interbreeding can cause much higher rates of genetic mutation in small groups of humans put under extreme environmental pressures, then why can't the same be true for Sasquatch? I do not think it is a coincidence that both of these white Sasquatch have been caught on video in the eastern half of the states, far away from classic Bigfoot territory in the Pacific Northwest. Despite the BFR data of Pennsylvania being one of the, quote, squatchiest states, I really believe that is because there are a lot of people in a relatively small place for a Sasquatch to be hiding, which leads to a lot more encounters. And as for MK Davis's footage, it isn't clear where the footage is from, but it is definitely somewhere in the Deep South, which isn't known for having a large population of Sasquatch. I will exclude Florida from this because I think the Everglades hide a lot more than we know, but it is reasonable to assume that there are very small populations of these creatures in the Deep South. And think back to the conditions to which Snowflake the white gorilla was found, in an area that was actively being poached. This likely forces troop of gorillas to isolate themselves in fear of being exterminated, causing the interbreeding that produced Snowflake. In further research of conditions that could cause an animal to appear white, it is possible that these clips are of a leucistic Sasquatch, which is similar to albinism, and that is a genetic mutation, and that it can be the result of inbreeding. So the point still stands. I do think that it is a real possibility that the limited number of Sasquatch in the eastern half of the states could be causing this. Now, there are a lot of sightings of Sasquatch that are described as being gray-colored. In fact, just doing basic searches of gray Bigfoot pull up a lot more relevant results than white Bigfoot. As for the sightings reporting them as gray, there are forms of albinism that can turn the skin and hair sort of gray. I'm going to butcher this, but Chediak-Higashi syndrome is a form of albinism that can cause this.
Anyways, thank y'all very much for watching.